and his areas of interest are identity politics, political sociology, and politics of inclusion. He has published 52 articles in national journals and 9 articles in international journals. He was a resource person in 84 national seminars and 12 international seminars. He has guided 9 students for doctoral studies and is also actively engaged in creative teaching in government primary schools in Dakshina Kannada district. With this brief introduction, I request Dr. P.L. Dharma to kindly begin this session on redefinition of rights and duties during COVID-19.
Thank you so much, dear friend. Namaste to all. I'm indeed honored with this invitation. Hello, am I audible? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. Indeed, I'm very much, honored with the invitation extended to me by my friends from Davula College. What else I should say? I'm saying namaste to all, and that's one of the greatest gestures these days, that we have invented ourselves to be more safe, to be more, responsible, to be more dutiful citizens, and that's something which is very nice. Before I begin to say for the next 3 minutes, let me also tell my friends that this is our duty to take care of the nation. This is our duty to take care of our neighbors, family, everybody. And let us be extra conscious about how we need to behave both inside and outside of home. My topic is not that, easy to be presented within the time that is allotted to me. I'm going to speak to you about not just the duties and the rights that is being all the time taken up for debate in the Constitution of India. I'm going to tell you something which I think I need to do that, and I need to also provoke you to think in that level. That's why I call this as redefining rights and duties today. Let me present to you, my dear friends, 3 important cases before I get back to my topic. Case number 1, which I think is very important. I think most of us are today being threatened. We know that, we have one or the other problems cropping up every day. And then we started thinking differently today. It is because we think that we are threatened. All of us have, started realizing life has become immediately important to us. We don't know, for some reasons, that we started to honor the life of others these days. I'm just asking you guys just to concentrate what I'm saying, and I want to link this to the other presentations later. We started honoring the life of others these days. And we started saying, you don't go out, and then wear masks, sanitize hands and objects you touch, and keep distance. This is something every day we start doing this. This we never been doing, though, hygienic personal hygiene was something that was very priority for all of us. But these are the slogans that we begin to do every day and night today, not only with us, also with the friends, with the family members and everybody. I'm presenting you the case number 2. Think of a time, when we were saying our touch was healing. It was absolutely refreshing. And we thought that, always the distance was anti-human till this day. And regular cleaning was abnormal. And if somebody does this, we always thought that, what is happening to someone, because he is or she is involved in all the time cleaning everything. Now we begin to say regular cleaning was abnormal earlier, and now it has become the life. We just thought restriction to move was anti-freedom. We always thought today we are being restricted because we are not allowed to move wherever we wanted to. We are in a way, we are not, supposed to enjoy our freedom. This is exactly case number 2. Look at the case number 3, which I think is also very important. I'm sure all of us notice and experience the change that has taken place in and around us. Each one of us have changed our behavioral pattern. Others too behave differently. and we expect others' behavior to be acceptable to us. And we don't want everybody to do things, against our interest. And we always expect somebody else to behave which is acceptable to us. Our surroundings looks absolutely different. And for the last 90 days or more, we did many things which we never thought of in our life. My dear friends, just keep these three cases as a background to what exactly I'm going to speak to you. Let me just tell you a small incident which becomes very important to us. Was there any instance where we or our elders behaved the way we do today? I'm asking you, is there any incident? Is there any incident that has changed our mind the way the present situation has changed? Yes, it did. It's more than 100 years old incident, started in 1918. And most of you know that it was Spanish flu. And we understand we know the history, and we have understood what the Spanish flu did for us and did to the entire world. The interesting note is the lesson from it was very interesting. The Spanish flu through the world gave us a lesson, and it was something very interesting. And that is what I say: decide to live with reality or perish. We must understand this. The Spanish flu came out with an interesting note, which most of us understand, which most of us have read, which most of us have begun to realize later, that is, decide to live with reality or perish. Now, what is deciding to live with reality? We understand, increasingly we've been bargaining. Now, we stopped bargaining now. We stopped debating on our failures these days. We started demonstrating the sense of concern, very high sense of concern, which has never been the case with us. We've become too sensitive these days. And I'm very happy that most of my friends and the people living with us and then surroundings and the entire world to a certain extent have become sensitive these days. And we are now paying more attention to understand the surroundings, which otherwise was not the case. We never bothered who lives with us, who never bothered who is our neighbor, we never bothered what is happening to people living next doors. Now we understand our surroundings in a big way. We are seriously sacrificing certain belongings. And one of the biggest belongings that we possess and we fight for possessing is our ego. I have been telling this since many years that we need to sacrifice this ego. Unless you sacrifice this, that there is no brighter days for us. Now this situation, the situation which we are living today, is telling us that you are supposed to do this, and thanks to that, and therefore we are, most of us, and increasingly people have started sacrificing certain belongings, especially the ego. That is a very important component. And now most of us are researching, trying to experiment, identifying to define our identity seriously. And I'm really seriously thinking about this. People have started asking, who are we today? So far, we were trying to define ourselves, our individuality, our personality, our own belongingness, and our own existence here with different kinds of questions, and then the criterias and the variables. I belong to the such and such caste, I belong to such and such class, I belong to this place, that. And I'm sure today people started doing things better, rather than asking whether I belong to this caste or this religion or whatever. I'm so happy, at least there is a massive change in the society where people started redefining identity differently. People have started saying that, look, because of the present condition, I'll tell you what present condition is. Our life is under restrictions. What a wonderful, political thought it is. We have been dealing and we've been talking about, there have been number of research saying that whether the restrictions are good or not. The restrictions are necessary evils today. Though restrictions have been protested, restrictions have been, been criticized, restrictions have been demolished, but now people started saying the restrictions, wherever it comes from, is necessary, and that's why I call it necessary evils. And most of my political friends know this. The necessary evil, the term that was coined in the 16th century by Thomas Paine, It was interestingly he who did it for the first time, and he called it necessary evil as a state, and he referred it to the state. State, though we often criticize, is now has become a necessary evil for a larger number of reasons. In the subsequent time and minutes, I'll just try to tell you. Though restrictions, all kind of restrictions, contradicts liberal discourse. My political friends, political science students understand it. Though the restrictions contradicts liberal discourse, we slowly and steadily are enjoying the restrictions these days. We were always saying, look, my freedom is at stake. My freedom is under the scanning because the restrictions are there. Now most of us have started thinking differently than what we did earlier. We started saying that we are ready for state managed souls, which was opposed tooth and nail till March 2020. My dear friends, this is something which I wanted to stress upon. We always said that the state is increasingly encroaching the life of people these days. And the state became always the big master, the state became a big brother these days. But we thought the state is something which is doing extraordinarily well as far as the present condition is concerned. We even floated saying why state is not acting ruthlessly. And most of us, we know, every time when I open newspaper today, most of the people started saying the state should assert much more than what it has done. Though state assertion was criticized, by and large, by large number of, by different schools of, schools. Now I understand people saying the state must act ruthlessly to control something which is really taking the life of people today. Now, let me just also give you few issues for your serious concern. In no time in the past, state in India behaved the way it did for the last 90 days. My dear friends, whenever we speak about the state, we always classify it, saying that what is the state immediately after the independence? What happened to state immediately, prior to the independence or prior to the emergency? What happened to the state after the emergency? And what happened to the state after 1992 and before 1992? And most of the time, the politicals and students play with this time, and they play with the incidents, political incidents, and relate the state. Now I'm trying to tell you, in no time in the past, state in India behaved the way it did for the last 90 days. I think our welfare state is back now. Look at the whole activities that the state carried these days. What a wonderful gesture, what a wonderful comeback of the state, what a wonderful comeback of the democracy in India. And that's why I call it as our welfare state is back now. The state knows its fundamental duties now. Most of us have started criticizing state because the state is going beyond the constitutional limits. Now the state is understood what exactly it has to do to its people, the citizens. That's why I call it as not only my fundamental duty, the fundamental duty of the state is also realized by the state today. There's something called a massive distribution of food, providing shelter, arranging for the travel, understanding of the emotions of poor and value of life of everyone, a great change in India and a welcome gesture. My dear friends, look at the whole thing that has happened. Migration was a concern, migration was a factor, migration was a development. Now, remember, the whole issue was taken up from the bottom to top. This is something which I wanted to say. The state is back into its business. Thank you so much, where the state is playing a major role in terms of redefining the life of people. When we redefine the rights and duties, the state is trying to redefine the whole political process in a different way. Let me also tell, my dear friends, there is something called the march to democracy. Democracy, as most of you know, is the favorite subject of all of us. We eat democracy, we live democracy, we sleep democracy, as you know, that we have always survived by teaching democracy these days. The march of democracy is something which I want to tell most of people, not only a political sense. Every citizen of India must understand that there is something called a new democracy that is emerging in India. I know we used our rights maximum to protest against state. Let me give you a small account, my dear friends. Whenever we speak of the rights, we have used our rights only to work against, only to protest against the state. And if you go for some of those interesting incidents that have taken place across the states, across the boundaries, the maximum use of the rights are the rights where we have used rights to protest against the state these days. That is the modern state, the modern life. I've seen large number of our rights are being always used against the state, or is either to criticize the state or to see underestimate the activities of the state. In fact, that was our priority also. We have changed our attitude now. What a wonderful, what a massive transformation. We have changed our attitude now. We together plan for our duties, for ourselves, and for others. Instead of talking about rights, instead of talking about fighting against right, fighting for rights, we now started planning for our own duties, for ourselves, and for others. We know rights and duties today matter less than surviving. And we know for sure that we are now looking at the rights and duties from different perspectives these days. And the surviving becomes very important. How to survive, and who is the most important factor in what is the most important factor in life, and who is going to really bring in change in our life is what exactly we are planning to, rather than thinking of rights and duties these days. The proof of our transformation today is that we have turned out to be great listeners. I'm reminded of Mahatma Gandhiji, and Gandhiji said, one of the finest human beings on the earth is the one who has a capacity to listen. Now, I'm also trying to quote here, my dear friends, that for the kind of life that we have taken up in our modern society, because we are in the pursuit of, in search of the material world, in search of the material benefits, satisfaction, or maximizing our utilities, whatever, and we are becoming part of the utilitarian school, we have forgotten everything. All basic values, fundamental values of life is completely marginalized. And in the process, we have lost the capacity of looking at, we have lost the capacity of hearing to, we have the lost capacity of being listeners. That's one of the reasons why Gandhiji was saying, look, the modern citizen today is a citizen which constitutes of the people who have no capacity, who have no sense. The sense organs are being lost in the modern civilization. And one of the senses, the capacity to listen. Now, for no reason, I don't know exactly, for in a very shortest period of time, all of us have become the great listeners. Thanks to this greater transformation that has taken place, this is where I begin to say now the democracy is in the march. And that's one of the reasons why most of the people now begin to patiently hear what is happening with others, and what is really they're paying time to understand what is really happening. I have always, a fascination to look at the kind of rights that we have. Look at the questions that we begin often think about, particularly when we speak about India and the Constitution of India. You have the right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to religion, cultural and education rights, and interestingly, constitutional remedies. My dear friends, for the last 90 plus days, for the last 90 plus days, and if you juxtapose with the kind of life that we have started doing, the life that we started living it, all these fundamental rights for which we have been often talking about is something becoming very, very, very serious. Think for a while. When we were looking for food, think for a while. When we were looking for at least the materials to cook food, we never thought that these things matters in a big way. Though very often in different platforms, we have always started, my right to equality is under stake, my right to freedom is under stake, my right to exploitation against exploitation is under stake. All those things were very fine. Now, neither you think state is your enemy, nor you think somebody is rich is your or upper caste is or a lower caste or whatever, or the neighbor, the XYZ, ABCD. You have no enemy now. What a wonderful system. You have no enemy now to blame. You have no enemy to now, no enemy to think about the fundamental rights, juxtaposes to the legal provisions that you have, and most of them are becoming futile these days. I have another dimension which I think all of my friends needs to worry about and think about it. Look at the new democracy. We thought one of the best thing in India is that in the process of democracy, instead of understanding our weakness, we always started blaming the state, blaming the parliament, blaming the MPs, blaming the MLAs. And this has become part of the democracy. And you think blaming itself is also your right. And we have seen how people started looking at our own representatives as well. Our elected representatives, like MLAs and then MLCs and then MPs, have become completely transformed characters these days, completely transformed individuals these days. They are, in the true sense of language, that they have really become the representatives of their constituency, which is very important. Thanks to the new government of India, and the state government, where the governments instructed all those representatives to be in their constituency so that they become useful to the people, which was not the case earlier. And either after the election they are here, nor they are somewhere else. But now, thanks to this kind of situation where our new democracy tells us our elected representatives are available with us, they may not have, or they might not have visited every doorstep, but the MLAs and the MPs and then the MLCs are there today with us. They have taken care of the people who really deserves to be taken care of. The MPs and the MLAs and the MLCs were looking for every opportunity to redefine the welfare state. What a wonderful, wonderful gesture. In terms of their act, in terms of their activities, in terms of their constitutional activities and moral obligations, which is very important, moral obligations, each one of them started redefining what welfare state ought to be, which I think is very important. Round the clock, they have been working. Round the clock, they have decided to be with people. Round the clock, they've decided to offer solutions. And in the name of helping, they called their offices as war room, which I think is very important. What a new idea is. The war room worked round the clock, 24/7, listening to people and receiving telephone calls, reaching there with food and with medicines, with whatever supply that they can do, whatever requirement that they do. Thanks to all those representatives who did a wonderful job. Not just I'm thanking because they did a wonderful job. I'm thanking because they redefined democracy. That is why I call this is a new democracy as well. These people, these representatives, with their service, with their work, they reinstated the confidence in life of many. And most of the people today think in time of pandemic, in time of difficulties, there is state to take care of them. There are representatives to take care of them. And I must also now tell, now not only the state, the non-state actors, few organizations and then few institutions and few individuals, they have come and then did the job parallel to the state, like almost what state was expected to do. Not just because I'm saying they distributed the food, they did a wonderful job, which is part of the welfare state as well. The new democracy too, which I think is also very important now. What a wonderful story that I'm going to talk to you about. People have hardly spoke about or speaking about human rights today. Though people have started also writing, I've seen some of those 3 to 4 articles in Hindu, only 4 articles in Hindu, which brought in few questions related to human rights these days for the last 90 days. I'm trying to tell you about this, which is very important. Now, even if there is some violations of human rights, whom to blame? Whom to blame? And therefore, at least now, the people who started human rights, started talking about human rights, people who started fighting for human rights, have now started redefining or rescheduling the plan with which they waged war against. They started fighting against the human rights violation in India. Many people started keeping mum because they were not in a position to say as to who violates whose rights these days. That's why I said people hardly speak and spoke about human rights today, especially when the entire police force is in the field to protect our life. My dear friends, most of you know, whenever the human rights debate took place, we invariably brought in one or the other police incidents to say the police, particularly in the name of state, is the biggest enemy of the human rights. Now you contradict, now you juxtapose both the police, both the state as well, and find out who is there to protect our life today. And if you say the least individual, usually we classify, hierarchically we classify, the marginalized among the marginalized are also being reached by the police officers today, the police department today, and they have touched our heart across, did a wonderful job. In a way, some of the defense personnel, in a way, some of the police officers have fed the poor, which we never bothered about. We have always moved in cities, we have walked in, we have enjoyed our life. When the beggars have been begging in the cities, we never cared about them. What a wonderful comeback, my dear friends. What a wonderful comeback of the humanity these days, that the same police officers whom we have been hating, the same police officers whom we have been criticizing for violating human rights, have protected the life of the poor. And this ensures that this is something needs to be seriously considered in India as well. A new contradiction as to who is the enemy of human rights when police is the protector and instructor. This is a small homework for all those who work and who have researched and who are really working on the kind of the hardship that we have had for the last few years in the context of COVID-19, and find out what is exactly this contradiction is all about. Every picture of police feeding food, every picture of police controlling us, every picture of his police is, saying, chalo, go back home, do your job, be with family. Everything is seen today as necessary evil, as a necessary evil, and it is not seen as the, intervention of the police or intrusion of the police act as well. Less important have become gods and goddesses to us today. What a great India to all of us today. I'm really overjoyed. I'm emotionally filled with this development and some of those people who we have never bothered. And particularly whenever we started talking about the less important people, people started as branding us, people started as criticizing us because we always speak for the less important people. My dear friends, look at the Paura Karmikas today. Look at those people who have cleaned your life. Look at those people who have cleaned your surroundings. Look at those people who have defined your good life today. And now they are being honored. And in some of the societies, they are being, of course, insulted. I know even today in Karnataka itself, I have seen people have been insulting the Paura Karmikas, who have been insulting the people as well, particularly Asha activists. Now I understand these less important have become gods and goddesses today, and we call them as, and we identified them as warriors. What a wonderful story, my dear friends. It is not just they are warriors. To me, they are in a way goddesses and the gods. The medical staff and the nurses and everybody fighting today have brought us a new knowledge, and that's brought us a new understanding to democracy, saying democracy means what you have been defining, democracy means what is happening today. Our decentralized institutions. This is a wonderful issue. Most of us have criticized the Panchayat Raj institutions. Most of us want to destroy Panchayat Raj institutions because we thought Panchayat Raj institutions are inhabited with large number of illiterates. Panchayat Raj institutions are inhabited by the reservation people. Panchayat Raj institutions are inhabited by the minorities, the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, OBCs. It's just a dungeon of illiterates. This is what the criticism was. Now, look at the Panchayat Raj institutions helped people during this very, very serious crisis. What a wonderful comeback of the decentralized democracy, decentralized institutions in India. Our decentralized institutions have become central today in saving the life of people. When all those migration people were migrated to our own places, and people started remigration and going back to their respective places, they started, finding it difficult for work. And it is this panchayat institution, this decentralized institutions through Manrega or whatever projects, the government of India's projects have started feeding them, started giving them the job, and started giving them the employment, salary. At least these institutions have started redefining the life of people in India as well. I'm so proud that the democratic institutions are coming back. The democratic institutions are being trusted by the people. Democratic institutions are really now thought to be alternative to what we have been talking about. Now look at a small tricky that I'm playing now. Look at Corona and Indian politics, my dear friends, and all of them who are listening to me. I don't think that, though we always speak about national integration, fight for national integration, and every time saying integration is important rather than disintegration as well. We thought nothing has happened for the last more than 7 decades. No one integrated us than Corona. What a wonderful development, my dear friends. I see it as a positive development. I see it as a positive move, and we thought, which is very, very important. We are now integrated, and that's one of the reasons why we pushed aside all our religious priorities. My dear friends, think for a while, for the last 90 days, what a great transformation among those who thought religion becomes ultimate. I'm not saying religion is no important at all. I'm saying religion is very, very important. But some of those practices, they were overtaking the true religious values, have become completely marginalized, have become completely pushed aside. That speaks about the way we are able to change. If necessary, if that is what necessary, if it is very necessary, we are here to change. And that is what my all fellow Indian citizens have, demonstrated these days. That is one of the reasons why we have succeeded. We are surviving. We pushed aside all our religious priorities today. No government had the courage to shut the doors of the religious places in the history. Think for a while, a very normal situation where the state initiated to lock up the religious places. Things would have been so different. You would have said it is again infringing the religious rights. My right to religion is taken up. My community's rights is taken up. We would have had different wars. We would have had different movements. But now what has happened to? No government had the courage till now to shut the doors of religious places in the history. People have volunteered. People have heard what the state wanted to do. People have respected the state. People, in fact, obliged what state said, and that's why the religious places, the so-called religious places, have been shut, and therefore, larger number of crowds have been managed differently. We remember what Kautilya did when Kautilya wanted to save his country. Like Kautilya did, everyone felt the need of independent house. At least in Indian politics, now we realize that the house is the minimum requirement for an every individual. Not a palace I'm talking about, not a palatial house, not anything, but a house is the common requirement for every individual, because when the government says stay back home, there are n number of people today who are homeless. There is absolutely no roof for them. Now it is time that India is taking very, very seriously, and I'm so happy that we have a new government of India which is now thinking housing is a fundamental right. Now, when we have a fundamental right to have a house, I'm sure any pandemic of this kind can be fought against, and that's one of the reasons why I appreciate what Kautilya did and recall what Kautilya wanted us to do now. Like Kautilya did, everyone felt the need of an independent house, are being with kids and kins these days. Family, my dear friends, most of the sociologist students knows how the family has been researched and worked out. Now we understand family and its significance has been redefined today, has become so important today. And it's not just a family. If your family is good, the neighborhood family is also going to be absolutely right. I'm so happy to tell you, my dear friends, that the Indian politics today, it is not the election I'm talking about. It is not the election commission I'm talking about. It is not just your voting, not electing your caste, electing your religious man or whatever. I'm talking of the Indian politics as a whole, where it deals with our life, day-to-day life. Our life today has become something very refined in the context of Corona 19. I'm just now bringing Corona as well in my presentation. Let us discharge our duties, my dear friends. Let us discharge our duties beyond the constitutional recommendations to save our lives and keep this society lively for our next generation. most of my friends have started talking about this, and most of the write-up that is coming up in English daily, I'm talking about, most of the channels have started using this word very seriously, that we need to be much more conscious. Conscious not about our rights, conscious, we need to be extra conscious about our duties these days, which is very, very important. Let me go back for a while and just tell you what exactly I want to talk to you about. When I said our new democracy, I wanted to tell, look at every representative who started changing their style of talking. I wanted to tell you, we were somewhere, we thought that in the post emergency, our representatives will become more and more representative, I mean, responsible and very, very rational. No, that has never happened. And few people have been parochial by themselves, and that has also brought a different kind of politics altogether. But now I see, at least in some of the primary channels, I see when they give the statement, every representative has become more sensible. And I've always seen people, representatives, talking about their own people, their own community, their own region. But now I have seen an inclusive language coming out of the mouths of MLAs, MLCs, MPs. I have never seen a very responsible MLAs, MLCs, MPs talking about these kinds. Now I have started listening to them. I've started hearing them. I've started just examining them. That there is so much of inclusiveness, involvement in their attitude and in behavior. I am so proud, at least now, that we have elected people who are now started using a different language which carries an inclusive language, which is very responsible these days. And every language they use is something which is not going to be it is not provocative, and they don't, land up in or land in conflicts and social conflicts as well. They are basically inclusive in my understanding as well. It is not to say that, I am all supporting what they do, but the way Corona pandemic has transformed them, I am so happy that they are becoming much more responsible, and most of them have realized their duties today, which was not the case for the last 7 decades, my dear friends. People, particularly our representatives, have become very, very responsible, and they know their duty very well. And that is something very positive about what is happening in our India. Let us make our nation more inclusive, my dear friends. This is where exactly I want to also draw your attention, very seriously. Let us stop the debate. I don't want to say that you stop debate on everything, and everything is important in democracy, and everything makes sensible in democracy. But I'm saying, let us use certain languages which is more inclusive. Most of our priorities have been that I'm so and so, and he is so and so, she is so and so. Now I think most of the people have started, not using that language, not using that term. Those jargons have become completely transformed. This is where I see what a wonderful time that we have, and we have learned it from Corona. And the Corona is also a big master to all of us. Not only to all of us, the entire world, is learning from Corona, and therefore, not just because it is Corona, therefore we do, and tomorrow or day after tomorrow we will back in our normal condition, and therefore I'm not saying let us go back to what we did. We are now, to a certain extent, not just a modernized, not just a civilized, we are just becoming more and more human beings, which I think I always said, most of my young friends know, which I was saying, there is something that we are missing today is the basic human values. And we are not justful. We are always for the caste, community, everything. None of us are being talking about rules, regulations. And we are always known for compromising rules and regulations, which really sometimes hurts. Now, thanks to Corona, which is trying to tell us, which is trying to help us in understanding what we are, and therefore trying to help us in defining what we are today. My dear friends, This 30 to 35 minutes I've taken now is to tell what I wanted to tell, and what a great time for me. And in case you have anything to tell us, tell me and interact. If the organizers have enough time, let us have a few interactions. Thank you so much for the time. Organizers, I'm grateful to you. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Yeah.
Hello. So we have a couple of questions, sir.
Yeah, please.
First one is from Dr. Praveen K.
Right.
The state imposing restrictions in the normal life of the people in a democratic system, is it fair?
The state, can you please repeat once again?
Okay, sir. The state imposing restrictions in the normal life of the people in a democratic system, is it fair?
It is, but you need to understand in what context that you're talking about. And unless the context is being specified, it is difficult now. For instance, the state wants you to stay back at home today. There is a lockdown today which you need to obey, and then you need to be. It is very important at this moment in this context that the state's instructions are being followed. And there are n number of cases where the act of the state is justified, and it needs to be. Because we have not been able to do this, we have a large number of problems as well. And the biggest problem with Indian democracy is this, that we are not able to understand the lines and the actual lines of, what do you call, line of actual control is not known to us. The state has its duty. When state says why you do this, it has a reason why state does. But a reasonable restriction is always acceptable. A reasonable restriction is a democracy, and it has to be seen as fundamentals to democracy.
Okay, sir. So the next question is from Dr. Lata Pandit.
Yeah.
Only when our life is threatened, we see the need of the state. Is it not opportunism?
I don't want to say that it is opportunism. Most of the time it has happened in India. When the state was there to take care of, we have always promoted the private interest. We have never realized the importance of the state. It is not the opportunity. Is opportunism is taking democracy or going back to something else? When we have accepted democracy from the beginning, we need to realize what is opportunism and what is not opportunism. I understand and I know for sure that most of the people who call it as an opportunism have always promoted the private interest, and they have seen the state as enemy. Because this is something, a new theory that has come in political science, calling it is an opportunism. For me, it is in a way, what a wonderful development. There is nothing called opportunism in state, because we have decided to be so, except for our promoting our private interest. Our state is our state, but we acted differently. We have conducted our business differently. Otherwise, our state is always for the people, and I don't see any opportunism there.
Okay, sir. So we don't have any more questions. So shall we close this session, sir?
Yes, thank you so much.
1 minute. As we come to the end of this webinar, it is my pleasure to propose the vote of thanks. I express my sincere gratitude to Sri Abhijit M., Secretary of Sri Digambar Jain Vidyavardhaka Sangha, for inaugurating this webinar and supporting us in our endeavor. I am thankful to the principal of our college, Dr. M. Ravish Kumar, for guiding and encouraging us to organize this webinar. I wholeheartedly thank Dr. P.L. Dharma, Registrar Evaluation of Mangalore University, for sparing his precious time to share his wonderful ideas through this webinar. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
I thank Sri Santosh Shetty, the organizing secretary of this webinar, Srimati Akshata Marathe, the technical coordinator, and all the members of the Internal Quality Assurance Cell who have worked together for the success of this national webinar. Last but not the least, I thank all the participants for your quick response and active participation in this national webinar. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much.
The feedback link is in your chat box. Kindly submit it immediately, the participants. Thank you.
Hours, ma?
Yes, sir.
Video off ಮಾಡಿ. ಧರ್ಮ video.